Commander Lee Tae-min stared at the star charts floating above his desk. The holographic display showed thousands of points of light, each representing a world mapped by the Galactic Council over the past 300 years. His ship, the Sunrise, had been assigned another routine mapping mission in the outer spiral. Nothing exciting ever happened out here. Commander, you need to see this. Dr. Park So-ra's voice carried an unusual edge of excitement. She was the ship's xenoarchaeologist and stellar cartographer, usually calm and focused. Today something was different. Lee Tae-min walked to the science lab, where Park So-ra hunched over her workstation. Data streams flowed across multiple screens, showing star positions, gravitational readings, and spectral analysis. Her dark eyes were wide with surprise. "What did you find?" he asked. Park So-ra pointed to a gap in the star chart. "There should be a star system here. Look at these gravitational readings." She highlighted the area in red. "Something massive is pulling on nearby objects, but according to Council records, this space is empty." Lee Tae-min frowned. The Galactic Council's maps were supposed to be perfect. They had been mapping the galaxy for centuries using technology far beyond what humans possessed. Could it be a sensor error? That's what I thought at first. Park So-ra pulled up another display. But then I checked our old Earth databases. Before we joined the Council, human astronomers detected a star system in this exact location. They even gave it a designation, Kepler 442. This was strange. When humanity first made contact with alien civilizations 40 years ago, they had turned over all their astronomical data to the Council. The aliens had laughed at the primitive human observations, calling them quaint but inaccurate. Now, it seemed the humans had been right about something. Kim Do-hyun, the ship's young navigation specialist, looked up from his console. "Commander, I've been running calculations. If there really is a star system there, it would have at least 3 planets. One of them might even be habitable." The door to the lab hissed open and Ambassador Velthak glided in. The Zenthari diplomat was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. Like most Council species, he viewed humans as useful, but intellectually limited. His voice carried its usual condescending tone. "Commander Lee, I hope you are not wasting time on human fantasies," Velthak said. "The Council's star charts are based on advanced technology and centuries of exploration. If a system is not recorded, it does not exist." Park So-ra straightened her shoulders. "With respect, Ambassador, our sensor readings don't lie. Something is out there." Velthak's eyes narrowed. "Humans have a tendency to see patterns where none exist. It is a known weakness of your species. I suggest you focus on your assigned mapping duties instead of chasing ghost signals." After the ambassador left, Lee Tae-min studied the data again. Park So-ra was brilliant, and Kim Do-hyun's calculations were always precise. If they said something was there, he believed them. The question was what to do about it. "How long would it take to reach those coordinates?" he asked Kim Do-hyun. 2 days at maximum warp," the navigator replied quickly. Lee Tae-min made his decision. "Set course for the anomaly. We're going to take a look." "But Commander," Kim Do-hyun said nervously. Ambassador Velthak said. "Ambassador Velthak isn't the captain of this ship," Lee Tae-min interrupted. "If there's something out there that the Council missed, we need to investigate. It's our job." The Sunrise dropped out of warp at the coordinates 2 days later. What they found made everyone on the bridge gasp in amazement. A yellow star burned brightly in the center of a 6-planet system. 3 rocky worlds orbited in the inner system, while 3 gas giants held the outer positions. "Incredible," Park So-ra whispered. "It's exactly where our Earth data said it would be." Kim Do-hyun ran sensor sweeps of the system. "Commander, the 3rd planet shows signs of a stable atmosphere. Temperature readings indicate liquid water on the surface. It could support human life." Lee Tae-min felt a chill run down his spine. A habitable world that didn't exist on any Council map? This was the kind of discovery that could change everything. "Take us in for a closer look." As the Sunrise approached the planet, their sensors revealed something even more shocking. Ancient structures dotted the surface, cities with tall spires and geometric patterns that clearly showed intelligent design. This wasn't just a habitable world, it was a world that had once been home to an advanced civilization. Commander, Park Sora's voice was barely above a whisper. I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the surface. Some of these structures are still active. The planet's surface showed vast cities connected by gleaming roads. Crystal towers reached toward the sky, and geometric patterns covered the landscape like a massive work of art. Everything was too organized, too perfect to be natural. Someone had built all of this. Any life signs? Lee Tae-min asked. Negative, Kim Do-hyun reported. The cities appear to be empty, but the power signatures suggest automated systems are still running. Lee Tae-min stared at the mysterious world. Below, an entire civilization had lived here, built these incredible cities and then vanished. But why wasn't this planet on any council map? Why had the most advanced species in the galaxy somehow missed an entire world? Commander? Park Sora said, her voice filled with excitement and worry. If the council doesn't know about this place, maybe they're not supposed to know about it. Maybe someone deliberately kept it secret. The implications hit Lee Tae-min like a physical blow. If someone had hidden this world from the galactic community, they must have had a very good reason. And if humanity had just stumbled onto that secret, they might be in serious trouble. Sir? Kim Do-hyun interrupted his thoughts. We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Impossible, Lee Tae-min said. You said there were no life signs. There aren't. The signal appears to be automated, but it's not in any known galactic language. Actually, Kim Do-hyun paused, looking confused. It's in Korean. Lee Tae-min felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up. An automated signal from a mysterious world broadcast in a human language? This was beyond strange. It was impossible. Play the message, he ordered. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect Korean. Welcome, children of Earth. We have been waiting for you. Please descend to the surface coordinates I am transmitting. There is much you need to learn about your galaxy and about yourselves. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Everyone stared at each other in shock. A mysterious civilization had been waiting specifically for humans. But how could that be possible when no one had ever been here before? Lee Tae-min looked at his crew. They were all young, all human, all about to step into something much bigger than a routine mapping mission. Whatever secrets this world held, they were about to change everything. The shuttle touched down on a landing platform made of smooth, dark stone that seemed to absorb light. Lee Tae-min led the away team consisting of Park Sora, Kim Do-hyun, Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho, and pilot Oh Hae-jin. The air was breathable, but felt strange as if it carried a faint electrical charge. The city stretched out before them like something from a dream. Tall crystal towers rose into the cloudy sky, connected by bridges that seemed too delicate to support their own weight. Everything was built in perfect geometric patterns, with curves and angles that pleased the eye in ways they couldn't explain. The architecture is incredible, Park Sora said, taking readings with her scanner. These materials should have crumbled millions of years ago, but they're still in perfect condition. Choi Min-ho knelt beside a glowing panel in the ground. The chief engineer was a practical man who understood machines better than people. His thick fingers moved carefully over the strange symbols carved into the surface. Commander, this technology is beyond anything I've seen, he said. The power source alone should be impossible. It's drawing energy from quantum fluctuations in space itself. A soft chime echoed across the landing platform. The voice they had heard on the ship spoke again, this time seeming to come from all around them. Please follow the illuminated path to the central archive. I will explain everything once you arrive. Lights appeared in the ground, forming a glowing trail that led deeper into the city. The team followed the path through empty streets that should have been filled with people but contained only the whisper of wind through crystal spires. Oh Hae-jin walked beside Lee Tae-min, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. She was the best pilot in the human fleet, fearless in combat and quick to react to danger. But even she seemed nervous in this strange place. Commander, something feels wrong about this. she said quietly. These buildings could house millions of people, but there's no one here. What happened to them? That's what we're here to find out, Lee Taman replied, though he shared her concerns. The central archive was a massive pyramid made of what looked like living crystal. The surface shifted and flowed like water, showing patterns of light that moved too fast for the human eye to follow. At the base of the pyramid, a doorway opened as they approached. Inside, the walls were covered with displays showing star maps, technical diagrams, and flowing text in dozens of languages. Some of the languages were familiar, human scripts from Earth. Others were completely unknown. At the center of the chamber stood a pillar of pure light that pulsed with a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. "Welcome," the voice said, and the pillar of light began to take shape. "I am what you would call an artificial intelligence, though that term is not entirely accurate. I am the architect, the last keeper of the predecessor civilization." The light formed into the shape of a tall, slender being with features that were almost human but not quite. Its skin seemed to be made of starlight, and its eyes held the depth of space itself. Park Sora stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "Predecessor civilization? We've never heard of such a species in the galactic records." "Of course you haven't," the architect replied sadly. "The current rulers of your galaxy made sure to erase all trace of my people. They feared what we represented, a civilization that valued knowledge and peace over power and control." The displays around them changed, showing images of a great war. Fleets of ships battled in space while planets burned below. The attackers flew vessels that looked familiar. They were council ships, but older versions of the same designs. "The species you call the Galactic Council were once younger and more aggressive," the architect continued. "They saw our technology and our influence over other worlds as a threat to their expansion, so they declared war on us." Kim Do-hyun watched the battle scenes with growing horror. "But you were more advanced than them. How did they win?" "We were peaceful," the architect explained. "We had powerful technology, but we used it to create and protect, not to destroy. When they came with weapons designed only for war, we were not prepared. Most of my people chose to die rather than fight back." Choi Min-ho examined the technical displays with fascination. "But some of you survived. This technology is still working." "In a way," the architect said. "Before the final battle, our greatest minds transferred their consciousness into quantum storage matrices. We preserved our knowledge and our culture, waiting for a species that could understand and appreciate what we had learned." "Why us?" Lee Taman asked. "Why humans?" The architect's glowing form smiled. "Because you think like we did. Your minds are flexible, creative, curious about the unknown. The council species became rigid in their thinking after they achieved dominance. They follow rules and hierarchies, but humans still ask questions." Park Sora looked around at the incredible technology surrounding them. "What happened to your physical civilization? This city, these buildings? What you see here is maintained by automated systems," the architect explained. "This world was hidden using technology the council could not detect. We made it invisible to their sensors, erased it from their maps. For millions of years it has waited for the right species to find it." Oh Hyojin frowned. "But how did we find it if it was hidden?" "Because human minds work differently," the architect said. "Your people noticed patterns that other species ignored. You kept records that others would have discarded. Most importantly, you were curious enough to investigate when something didn't make sense." The displays changed again, showing detailed, technical schematics. Choi Min-ho's eyes widened as he recognized propulsion systems, weapons, manufacturing processes, and energy sources beyond anything in current galactic technology. "This is incredible," he breathed. "With technology like this, humans could travel across the galaxy in days instead of months." "That is exactly what the Council fears," the architect said. "They have kept all species at a primitive technological level to maintain their control. But this technology responds to minds that can think creatively and adapt quickly." Lee Taman felt a chill as he realized the implications. "If we take this technology back to human space, The Council will see us as a threat. They already do, the architect replied. Your discovery of this world will not remain secret for long. Even now, Council forces are mobilizing to contain what they see as a growing human problem. Park Sora looked at the vast stores of knowledge around them. Why are you showing us this? What do you want us to do? The architect's form became brighter, more solid. I want you to become what my people once were, guardians of knowledge and freedom. This technology is yours now, humanity. Use it wisely, and perhaps you can succeed where we failed. Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the base chamber. Kim Do-hyun checked his communicator and his face went pale. Commander, the Sunrise is detecting Council ships entering the system. A full enforcement fleet. They're jamming our communications. Oh Hyejin was already moving toward the exit. We need to get back to the ship, now. But the architect raised a glowing hand. Wait. Before you go, you must understand, this is not just about technology. The knowledge stored here will change how you see the galaxy itself. Your species is not primitive or inferior. You are the inheritors of the greatest civilization this galaxy has ever known. The crystal walls around them began to glow brighter, and suddenly each member of the away team felt a rush of information flowing into their minds. Not just technical data, but understanding. The deep knowledge of how the universe really worked. Choi Min-ho staggered as schematics for impossible engines burned themselves into his memory. Park Sora gasped as the true history of the galaxy unfolded before her. Kim Do-hyun suddenly understood navigation systems that could cross the galaxy in heartbeats. Go now, the architect said. But remember, you are not alone. Across the galaxy, other hidden installations wait for human minds to activate them. The predecessors prepared for this day. Your people are about to inherit the stars. As they ran back toward their shuttle, Council ships were already descending through the atmosphere. The secret was out, and humanity's quiet existence as a minor galactic species was about to end forever. The Council enforcement fleet surrounded the Sunrise before it could escape the system. 12 massive warships, each one capable of destroying a planet, formed a perfect sphere around the small human vessel. Lee Tae-min stood on his bridge, watching the overwhelming display of firepower on the main screen. Incoming transmission, Kim Do-hyun reported, his voice tight with fear. Ambassador Velthak appeared on the screen, but he looked different now. Gone was the polite condescension. His pale blue face was hard with anger, and his black eyes held no warmth at all. Commander Lee, you have violated the most sacred laws of galactic civilization, Velthak said coldly. By entering this restricted system, you have committed an act of species-level treason. Restricted system, Lee Tae-min replied. This system doesn't appear on any of your maps. How can it be restricted if it doesn't officially exist? Velthak's expression didn't change. There are many things that don't officially exist, Commander. Your species' limited understanding of galactic politics is about to receive a harsh education. The transmission cut out, and immediately the ship's systems began shutting down. Tractor beams locked onto the Sunrise, pulling it toward the largest Council vessel. Within minutes, they were trapped in a hangar bay filled with armed alien soldiers. Captain Yoon Jae-wook was already in custody when they brought Lee Tae-min and his crew to the detention center. The older man was commander of the Human Defense Fleet, and seeing him here meant the situation was even worse than they had imagined. They arrested me the moment your ship was detected in this system, Yoon Jae-wook explained quietly as they were placed in the same holding cell. Apparently the Council has been monitoring all human communications. They know about our discovery. Dr. An Mi-young was in the next cell. The brilliant physicist looked exhausted, but her eyes burned with anger. They've seized all my research, she said. 20 years of work on exotic matter propulsion gone. They claim it violates galactic safety protocols. Before anyone could respond, the cell doors opened. High Counselor Zethrax entered, flanked by guards. The ancient Zenthari was tall, even by his species standards, with skin so pale it was almost transparent. He had been a leader of the Council for over 2 centuries, and his presence here meant this was more serious than a simple border violation. Humans, he said, his voice carrying the weight of immense age and authority. Do you have any idea what you have stumbled into? Lee Taemin stood up slowly. We found evidence that your council built its power on genocide. Is that what you're so worried about? Zethrax laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Genocide? Such a dramatic word. We prefer to call it necessary pruning. The predecessors were a threat to galactic stability. They refused to accept proper authority and insisted on sharing their technology with primitive species. They were peaceful, Park Sora said from her cell. The architect showed us the historical records. The architect, Zethrax mused. So, the old fool is still functional. We thought we had destroyed all of their artificial minds along with their biological forms. Dr. An Mi-young pressed against the energy barrier of her cell. You wiped out an entire civilization because they wanted to help other species advance? We eliminated a destabilizing influence, Zethrax corrected. The predecessors would have given their technology to anyone who asked. Can you imagine the chaos? Primitive species with the power to reshape stars? Warlike races with weapons that could crack planets? No. Better that such power remain with those wise enough to use it responsibly. Captain Yoon Jae-wook stepped forward. And I suppose you're wise enough? We have maintained galactic peace for 3 centuries, Zethrax replied. No major wars, no planetary genocides, no species extinctions. That peace was built on ensuring that dangerous technology remained under proper control. Lee Taemin felt pieces of the puzzle clicking together in his mind. That's why you keep all the younger species at primitive technology levels. You're not protecting the galaxy from us. You're protecting your power from competition. Finally, some understanding, Zethrax said approvingly. Yes, the Council maintains technological superiority to ensure stability. But now your species threatens that balance. The High Counselor activated a holographic display showing human space. Red markers appeared over dozens of worlds, indicating military buildups and defensive preparations. Your people adapt too quickly, Zethrax continued. In 40 years, you've gone from primitive spaceflight to building ships that challenge our patrol vessels. Your scientists ask uncomfortable questions and make inconvenient discoveries. Your military leaders study our tactics and develop counters to our strategies. So what? Oh, Hyejin called out from her cell. Are you going to commit genocide against humanity too? If necessary, Zethrax replied without emotion. But we prefer more subtle methods. Economic restrictions, technological limitations, political isolation. We've used these tools to keep dozens of species in line for centuries. Dr. An Mi-young had gone very still. The delays in approving our research proposals, the restrictions on human exploration zones, the limits on how many ships we can build, that wasn't bureaucracy, it was deliberate suppression. Of course, Zethrax confirmed. Every species that shows dangerous potential receives the same treatment. Most accept their limitations and settle into comfortable subjugation. But humans, he shook his head. You keep pushing boundaries. You ask why when you should simply obey. Lee Taemin thought about the knowledge the architect had shared with them. The understanding of advanced technology, the locations of hidden installations, the truth about humanity's potential. If the Council learned about that, the information you discovered on that world must be contained, Zethrax said, as if reading his thoughts. The architect's knowledge cannot be allowed to spread. Your species will be relocated to a single system under permanent Council supervision. You can't do that to 4 billion people, Captain Yoon Jae-wook protested. We have done it before, Zethrax replied coldly. The Velkari once challenged our authority. They were relocated to mining worlds in the Galactic Rim. The Thurok developed dangerous biotechnology. They now exist solely as agricultural workers on Council agricultural worlds. Relocation is preferable to extinction. But even as the High Counselor spoke, Lee Taemin noticed something strange. The lights in the detention area were flickering in a rhythm that seemed familiar. It was the same pattern they had seen on the predecessor world, the heartbeat pulse of the architect's quantum consciousness. Park Sora caught his eye and nodded slightly. She had noticed it too. Somehow the architect was still in contact with them, even here on a council warship. The knowledge they had gained was still flowing through their minds, teaching them things they had never imagined possible. Choi Min-ho was staring at the wall panels with new understanding. The predecessor technology wasn't just on that hidden world, it was everywhere, woven into the very fabric of galactic civilization. The Council had built their empire on the bones of the predecessors, but they had never fully understood what they were using. "You made one mistake," Lee Taemin said quietly. Zethrax turned to look at him. "And what would that be?" "You assumed that destroying the predecessors meant destroying their legacy. But they were smarter than you realized. They didn't just hide one world. They hid their entire civilization in plain sight." The High Counselor's pale skin turned even whiter. "What are you talking about?" Lee Taemin smiled, feeling the ancient knowledge burning in his mind like a star being born. "The technology you've been using for centuries, the systems that run your ships and power your worlds, it's all based on predecessor designs. And now that we know how to really use it," alarms began sounding throughout the ship as human minds, enhanced by predecessor knowledge, began to understand and control technology that had seemed impossibly advanced just hours before. The revolution was beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same. The first sign that something had changed came when the detention cells simply stopped working. The energy barriers that had held the human prisoners flickered once, then disappeared completely. Lee Taemin stepped out of his cell, feeling the predecessor knowledge flowing through his mind like a river of liquid starlight. "The ship's security systems are responding to us," Choi Min-ho said in amazement. "It's like they recognize something in our thoughts." Captain Yoon Jae-wook gathered the group together as alien guards ran through the corridors in panic. "Whatever's happening, we need to use it to get word back to Earth. Admiral Kang Dong-woo needs to know what we've learned." They made their way to the ship's communication center, moving through passages that seemed to rearrange themselves to help them. Doors opened without being touched. Elevators carried them to the right levels without being commanded, and security systems ignored their presence entirely. Dr. An Mi-young sat down at a communication console that should have required council authorization codes. Instead, it responded to her touch as if she were its rightful operator. "Incredible," she whispered as data flowed across the screen. "This isn't just technology. It's like the ship itself is alive and wants to help us." The transmission reached Earth, just as Council fleets were moving into position around human colonies. Admiral Kang Dong-woo received the message in his command center on Luna, where humanity's best military minds were preparing for what looked like an impossible war. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're getting reports from across human space. Ancient installations are activating on dozens of worlds. Things we thought were natural formations are revealing themselves to be some kind of advanced technology." Admiral Kang Dong-woo studied the reports flooding in. On New Sol, crystalline structures had emerged from underground caverns generating power readings that dwarfed fusion reactors. On Busan Station, asteroid mining equipment was spontaneously upgrading itself with capabilities no human engineer could explain. But the most remarkable reports came from Earth itself. Engineer Lim Soo-bin, a 19-year-old prodigy working at the Seoul Institute of Technology, had somehow managed to decode completely alien technical specifications. "Admiral," she reported over the communication link, her young voice filled with excitement and terror, "the knowledge just appeared in my mind. I understand how to build things that shouldn't be possible, faster-than-light engines that don't, require exotic matter, weapons that can disable entire fleets without killing anyone, defensive systems that can protect whole solar systems. How is that possible?" Admiral Kang Dong-woo asked. "I don't know," Lim Soo-bin admitted. "But it's not just me. Engineers and scientists across human space are reporting the same thing. It's like someone is teaching us directly, downloading information straight into our brains." Dr. Bae Jun-seo, humanity's chief diplomatic officer, was frantically trying to open communication channels with moderate council members, but his efforts were met with silence or outright hostility. The alien species, that had once treated humans as useful junior partners, now saw them as an existential threat. "They're terrified," he reported to Admiral Kang Dongwu. "Some of the younger Council species are calling for immediate military action against all human worlds. They think we've somehow infected their technology with a virus." On the captured Council ship, Lee Taemin and his team had reached the bridge. The alien crew stood frozen as their own vessel refused to obey their commands. Instead, the ship's systems were responding to the humans, providing them with information that revealed the true scope of the crisis. "Admiral," Lee Taemin transmitted, "to Earth, the Council has been building their technology on predecessor foundations for millions of years, but they never really understood how it worked. They just copied what they found. Now that humans have the original knowledge, we can control systems they thought were completely secure." Park So-ra was accessing the ship's database, uncovering files that had been classified at the highest levels of Council authority. "The predecessors didn't just hide technology," she reported. "They hid entire civilizations. There are hundreds of species across the galaxy that the Council has suppressed or relocated. Many of them have been waiting for centuries for someone to challenge Council authority." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just gaining access to advanced technology. They were inheriting the role of galactic liberators. Engineer Lim Soo-bin worked frantically in her Seoul laboratory, her young hands moving across holographic interfaces that had materialized from nowhere. The technology was building itself using materials that reorganized themselves at the molecular level. "Admiral, the first new ships will be ready in hours, not months," she reported. "These aren't just human vessels anymore. They're human predecessor hybrid technology. They'll outperform anything the Council has ever built." But the most dramatic changes were happening throughout the galaxy itself. On worlds that had been under Council control for centuries, ancient installations were coming to life. The Velkari, who had been enslaved as miners, found their tools transforming into liberation devices. The Thurok agricultural workers discovered that their farming equipment could be reconfigured into defensive weapons. General Nam Da-yoon, recently promoted to coordinate humanity's response to the crisis, stood in the command center watching reports flow in from across human space. "It's not just about us anymore," she told Admiral Kang Dongwu. "The entire galactic balance of power is shifting. Species that have been oppressed for generations are suddenly finding themselves with the tools to fight back." The Council's response was swift and brutal. Fleets moved toward human colonies with orders to contain the contamination by any means necessary. But as they approached their targets, they discovered that their own ships were beginning to malfunction. High Counselor Zethrax stood in his flagship's command center, watching in horror as vessel after vessel reported system failures. Weapons wouldn't fire, engines wouldn't respond, and communication systems were broadcasting surrender messages without authorization. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his technical staff. "The humans seem to have gained access to core system protocols," his chief engineer reported nervously. "Our technology is treating them as authorized users with higher access levels than our own." On the hidden predecessor world, the architect's consciousness expanded beyond the crystal pyramid, reaching out through quantum communication networks that spanned the galaxy. For millions of years, it had waited patiently for this moment. The awakening of a species with the mental flexibility to inherit the predecessor's true legacy. "My children," the architect transmitted to human minds across the galaxy, "you are not conquerors. You are liberators. The technology I share with you comes with a responsibility to free those who have been oppressed and to ensure that knowledge serves all life, not just the powerful." Lee Taemin felt the weight of that responsibility as he stood on the bridge of what had been a Council warship, but was now responding to his commands. Through the view screen, he could see other Council vessels hanging powerless in space, their crews trapped inside ships that no longer obeyed them. "Admiral," he transmitted to Earth, "we have an opportunity to end the Council's oppression forever, but we have to choose how we use this power. We can become the new oppressors, or we can become something better." Admiral Kang Dongwu considered the reports flooding in from across human space. Young engineer Lim Soo-bin had completed construction of humanity's first true predecessor hybrid vessel, General Nam Da-yun had coordinated with newly awakened alien resistance movements on dozens of worlds. Dr. Bai Jun Seo had established communication with oppressed species throughout the galaxy. All ships and installations, Admiral Kang Dong-woo broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Kang Dong-woo of the Human Space Forces. We offer freedom to all species, protection to the oppressed, and justice to those who have been wronged. But to those who would maintain tyranny through force, your time is over. The galaxy held its breath as humanity stepped onto the stage of cosmic history, not as conquerors, but as the inheritors of the greatest civilization the stars had ever known. The missing world on the star map had indeed changed the fate of the galaxy forever, not through destruction but through the awakening of hope that had slept for millions of years. 5 years had passed since the discovery of the hidden world, and the galaxy was transformed beyond recognition. President Han Seo-jun stood on the observation deck of New Terra Station, watching ships from dozens of species dock at what had become the new center of galactic civilization. The station orbited the predecessor world, which had been renamed Harmony by the species that now called it home. The crystal cities below pulsed with new life as humans, Velkari Thurok and dozens of other formerly oppressed species worked together to rebuild what the Council had tried to destroy. "The morning reports, Mr. President," his aide announced, handing him a datapad filled with updates from across the galaxy. Han Seo-jun smiled as he read the entries. The Zenthari homeworld had finally accepted the new Galactic Alliance's offer of membership, with their young leaders publicly apologizing for their species' role in the predecessor genocide. 3 more Council species had requested assistance in transitioning their societies from rigid hierarchies to cooperative democracies. Admiral Lee Tae-min, now Supreme Commander of the Alliance Defense Force, approached with General Nam Da-yun at his side. Both looked tired but satisfied, the expression of people who had fought a good fight and won it honorably. "The last Council holdout system has agreed to negotiations," Nam Da-yun reported. "High Counselor Zethrax has finally accepted that the old order is finished." "Any word on the integration projects?" President Han Seo-jun asked. Lee Tae-min nodded. "Engineer Lim Soo-bin reports that the new predecessor hybrid manufacturing centers are exceeding all expectations. We'll be able to provide advanced technology to every species in the Alliance within the next 2 years. That had been the key to humanity's success, not hoarding the predecessor knowledge for themselves, but sharing it freely with anyone willing to use it responsibly. The technology itself seemed to encourage cooperation, working better when operated by mixed species crews than by any single group. Dr. Park So-ra, now Director of Galactic Archaeological Services, materialized as a hologram in the observation lounge. She was currently on the far side of the galaxy, leading expeditions to uncover more hidden predecessor sites. "President Han, we've discovered something remarkable on the outer rim," she reported excitedly. "An entire planet that served as a predecessor university. The knowledge stored there includes technologies we haven't even imagined yet, methods for healing damaged ecosystems, techniques for peaceful contact with non-technological species, and blueprints for structures that exist partially outside normal space-time." "Any sign of more architect-level intelligences?" Lee Tae-min asked. 3 of them, Park So-ra confirmed. "They call themselves the Teachers, and they're eager to help us understand not just the technology but the philosophy behind it. The predecessors weren't just advanced, they were wise." President Han Seo-jun looked down at the planet below, where former enemies now worked side by side. The transformation hadn't been without challenges. Some Council species had fought bitterly against the changes, and it had taken careful diplomacy and sometimes force to convince them that cooperation was better than domination. "Mr. President," his aide interrupted, "you have a call from Earth. It's Engineer Lim Soo-bin." The young woman appeared on the communication screen, now wearing the insignia of Chief Technology Officer for the Alliance. At 24, she was responsible for managing technology that could reshape stars and create new forms of life. "Sir, I wanted to give you the final report on the restoration project," she said, her voice carrying the satisfaction of work well done. The restoration project had been humanity's gift to the galaxy. using predecessor technology to repair the damage caused by millions of years of council mismanagement. Polluted worlds were being cleaned, extinct species were being brought back from genetic samples, and the scars of ancient wars were finally healing. The last of the damaged systems has been repaired, Lim Subin continued. The Velkari homeworlds, oceans are clean again. The Thurok agricultural worlds are producing food for the first time in centuries, and we've successfully restored atmospheric stability to 12 worlds that were strip-mined by council operations. General Nam Da-yoon pulled up a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Green markers indicated Alliance member worlds, blue showed planets undergoing restoration, and only a few red markers remained to show systems still under old council control. The transformation is almost complete, she observed. In 5 years, we've gone from a galaxy ruled by fear to one governed by cooperation. Not without cost, Lee Taemin added solemnly. The fighting on the Zenthari border worlds was brutal before their government finally collapsed, and we lost too many good people, convincing the militant factions that the old ways were finished. President Han Seo-jun nodded. The transition hadn't been peaceful everywhere. Some council species had preferred to fight rather than accept the loss of their privileged positions. But humanity had learned from the predecessors' mistakes. Sometimes force was necessary to protect the innocent. Dr. Bae Jun-seo joined them in person, having just returned from negotiations with the last independent council remnant. The diplomat looked older than his years, worn down by the constant work of building bridges between former enemies. Zethrax has agreed to the final terms, he reported. The old High Council will be dissolved, its members given the choice of joining the Alliance as equals or retiring to private life. The Zenthari people have voted to accept Alliance membership. What about reparations? Nam Da-yoon asked. They've agreed to contribute their historical archives and any remaining predecessor artifacts to the Common Heritage Database, Bae Jun-seo replied. It's not everything we wanted, but it's more than we expected from a proud species learning to accept defeat. A soft chime announced another presence, the architect itself, its consciousness manifesting through the station's quantum communication systems. The ancient intelligence had become a regular advisor to the Alliance leadership, offering wisdom gained from millions of years of observation. I am pleased to see how well you have learned the lessons my people tried to teach, the architect said, its voice carrying warmth that transcended its artificial nature. The predecessors made many mistakes in our time. We were too passive, too willing to allow aggression to go unchallenged. You have found a better balance. President Han Seo-jun looked around at his advisors, humans and aliens working together. Former enemies, now allies, young and old, united by shared purpose. What's next? He asked. We've reformed the galaxy, but what comes after reformation? The architect's presence seemed to smile. Now you explore beyond this galaxy. The predecessors had contact with civilizations in other star systems, other dimensions of reality. The knowledge you have gained here is just the beginning of what's possible. Engineer Lim Subin's eyes lit up with excitement. Intergalactic travel? Dimensional gateways? All of that and more, the architect confirmed. But first, you must complete the work here. There are still species that need help, worlds that need healing, and knowledge that needs sharing. The galaxy is large, and wisdom grows slowly. Lee Taemin stepped up beside President Han Seo-jun, looking out at the busy traffic of ships carrying hope to every corner of known space. 5 years ago, we were just another minor species trying to survive in a hostile galaxy. Now we're the guardians of galactic civilization, Han Seo-jun finished. The inheritors of the greatest legacy in cosmic history. Dr. Park Sora's hologram flickered as her transmission strengthened. Mr. President, there's something else. The teachers have shown us records of what the predecessors called the Great Work, a project to link all civilizations across all possible realities, in a network of shared knowledge and mutual protection. How long would such a project take? General Nam Da-yoon asked. Thousands of years, the architect replied. But you have made the first step. You've proven that different species can work together, that knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied, and that wisdom guided by compassion is stronger than power guided by fear. As the meeting concluded and his advisors departed to their various duties, President Han Seo-jun remained on the observation deck. Below him, the crystal cities of harmony pulsed with the rhythm of new life. Around the galaxy, species that had never been allowed to reach their potential were finally free to explore the stars. The missing world on the star map had indeed changed the fate of the galaxy forever. But perhaps more importantly, it had revealed that the greatest power in the universe wasn't advanced technology or superior weapons. It was the willingness to see other beings as equals and to share knowledge freely with those ready to use it wisely. Humanity had inherited the stars not through conquest but through compassion. And in doing so, they had become something greater than any single species. They had become the foundation upon which a truly civilized galaxy could be built. The great work was just beginning.